Chapter 1, Origins of Government, and Chapter 3, Constitutions. Now, like I said, I'm going to be giving you a read skim list for each of the chapters in the book. I've been trying to figure out whether or not to read them all to you.
It's not that I can't help these people, it's just that I don't want to.
Okay, so in the beginning, no, not that. In the beginning, when the American colonies began, they were discrete political units under the governance of the King of England. Representation was done in Parliament by people who had lived in England, often those who had never been off the island. When George III assumed the monarchy, things began to change. Among these changes was the Proclamation of 1763, which said that the crest of the Appalachians was the western limits that colonists could go. This was basically so British Army would not have to be garrisoned way out there to protect the colonies against the Indians. Also, the new Minister of the Treasury in the colonies was George Grenville, who said that the colonists should be made to pay for their own defense. So he instituted a sugar tax, molasses tax, a stamp act, and a quartering act. The taxes and acts, combined with the lack of colonist representation in the interest of the colonies in Parliament, called actual representation, really upset the colonies. But Minister Grenville said that each member of Parliament represented the interests of everyone in the empire. Therefore, the colonists had virtual representation. And this led to the rallying cry, "No taxation without representation." Give you a little side note. I'm going to be giving you the dates of things that happened, not because I want to bog you down with trivia. I give you dates because you need to have a historical, culture, and societal time frame in which to place events. But please don't worry about dates too terribly much. I'm not going to ask you what year did this thing happen, but I will put actions in order. So if you tell me that the signing of the Declaration of Independence came before the landing on Plymouth Rock, then we're going to have a problem. After a while, a new minister showed up named Charles Townshend, who took a far more aggressive stance to the colonies. The first step he did was the Townshend Acts, which suspended the New York legislature for refusing to house imperial soldiers, known as quartering, as well as new taxes on glass, lead, paper, and tea. He also appointed a board of commissioners at Boston, the headquarters of smuggling. It was a move that upset the dock workers because if you couldn't get the kickbacks from illegal shipping, your livelihood was gone. Incoming ships at this time had no way to know the clampdown on smuggling was happening. They showed up expecting things to be the way they were and were horribly surprised by imperial soldiers wanting to collect the entire tax. The soldiers couldn't be bribed either, which really threw a wrench in the works. And lastly, he strengthened the courts that tried smugglers. Because of tax issues surrounding imported tea, the colonists started to practice a not so passive-aggressive action against the symbols of Townshend's laws and, by extension, Triple George's laws. The Sons of Liberty, dressed as Mohawk Indians, threw a literal boatload of tea into Boston Harbor. In 1774, that's timeline, in response to the Boston Tea Party, the Townshend enacted 4 more laws to punish Boston. The Boston Port Act, the Administration of Justice Act, a strengthened Quarantine Act, and the Massachusetts Government Act. These were all known as the Intolerable Acts in the colonies and the Coercive Acts in Great Britain. A little bit of a side note, teachers usually don't like encyclopedias for research. They're not a primary source, they're an overview. But I choose to link to Wikipedia so that you can gain, if you wish, a little deeper understanding of the topic raised. The links are here to give you a little deeper dive into the content, so if you have an interest as to the what, and maybe a little bit of the why, that's where you can look. The colonists had enough. In rapid succession came the shot heard round the world at Lexington, escalation of hostilities at Concord, all-out war, Declaration of Independence, 8 years of war, and finally victory. You may have noticed that I glossed over some of the details of the war. I personally recognize the necessity of war, yet I'm not a fan of it. And there are several very good resources that you can go to find out the details. Ron Chernow's biographies of Washington and Hamilton, as well as David McCulloch's John Adams biography. So we won the war. Now what? There was a question on how to establish this new government to run the country. I mean, there wasn't a book. There was a big ship, but there wasn't a book. So they drew up the Articles of Confederation, which provided for a strong state-based power and a weak national power. The articles were kind of built broken. They lasted for about 6 years until the reality of the situation hit everyone involved. Nothing could be done under the articles. No state could be compelled to comply with national actions. The national government, what little there was, couldn't act directly upon the citizens, needing to ask the states to do their bidding. And Rhode Island simply refused to do anything. So a convention was called to determine how best to fix the Articles of Confederation. They realized the only way to fix it was to take it outside and kill it and start from scratch. So they set about creating a constitution which would give the national government more direct power over both states and citizens and reduce the power of the states considerably. Now, read over the comparison sheet between the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution, as well as watch the Constitution and the Oregon Bill of Rights quick hits video that are in this folder.